I think to understand the conflict between Asmara and Mekele today, we need to have an understanding of the history of the two fronts and how they operated in the field when they fought together against the Derg military regime in Ethiopia. Eritrea as a war of liberation, Tigray as a war of resistance to topple the regime. And part of it harks back to mid-1980s, 84, 85, during the famine in northern Ethiopia at that time. EPLF under Isaias Afwerki, they blocked international humanitarian aid to go through Eritrean territory liberated by EPLF and into Tigray, to the famine-struck population of Tigray. And that was created, of course, disaster in Tigray, and thanks to an enormous indigenous mobilization, TPLF managed to establish a separate route directly from Tigrayan territory into Sudan to receive cross-border humanitarian aid, which saved, several hundred thousands of Tigrayans. But the betrayal of EPLF towards the famine-struck population of Tigray in the mid-1980s is something which really created a breach between the two fronts. In addition to different ideological perspectives on the fight, in addition to the different military strategies they did have, fighting the war against the Derg, this led to a shift from TPLF and EPLF having a strategic relationship to a tactical relationship. And that is a significant shift when it comes to Marxist-Leninist liberation movements. And that grievance between the two fronts was not settled in 91, when Eritrea militarily liberated their territory, and EPLF and the TPLF, EPRDF took power in Addis. And that has something which has lingered, that kind of both the ideological but also the grievances created during the struggle against the Derg. But TPLF from day one accepted the fact that Eritrea's war against Addis was a war, anti-colonial war, a war of liberation. And they accepted that Eritrea should obtain independence based on their military victory and based on then the result of a referendum, which was kept on the 24th of May, 1993. I was in Eritrea at that time, observing the referendum. And Ethiopian government, headed by TPLF EPRDF, was the first country then to recognize Eritrea's sovereignty after the referendum in 1993. And I think, paradoxically, as I have repeatedly said, also during the 1998-2000 war, the best guarantist for Eritrean sovereignty in Ethiopia has been the TPLF, because they have consistently stood by that principle. Many, if not all, of the Ethiopian opposition parties, which have existed on and off since 1993, has argued for bringing back all of Eritrea or parts of Eritrea to Ethiopia to get access to the sea, for instance, Assab. So more or less all the rest of opposition in Ethiopia has challenged Eritrea's sovereignty and integrity, but TPLF, EPRDF. And I think that's important to keep in mind also today, when we see in Debretzion's presser just some few days ago, he still insists on that Tigray is not a threat to Eritrea's territorial integrity. Yes, they are a threat maybe to the rule of Isaias Afwerki, but that's a different matter. So I think that complicated or complex relationship historically between EPLF and TPLF is something we need to carry with us, and we need to factor in trying to understand the current, today's dimensions.